Karen's arrest echoed beyond our cul-de-sac. Local news picked up the story, dubbing her Corvette Karen, while HOA forums across the state lit up with heated debates about unchecked power, corrupt boards, and the need for stricter homeowner protections. For once, the conversation wasn't about grass height or paint swatches. It was about accountability. Her trial date was set for 3 months later, but even before that, the wave she left behind reshaped Willow Creek. The interim board put in sweeping reforms: digital minutes accessible to all residents, third-party audits of finances, and a motion to prevent any board member from serving more than 2 consecutive terms. The neighborhood transformed. Fear gave way to collaboration. Neighbors began talking again, not whispering in paranoia, but laughing over grills, waving during dog walks. I got invited to more backyard barbecues in a month than I had in the last 5 years. And my Corvette? She was fully restored, courtesy of a local mechanic who'd followed my blog and offered to repair the scratches and interior damage at cost. "You stood up to her," he said. "Least I can do is help you put the queen back on her throne." By the time Karen's court date arrived, her once pristine image had eroded into caricature. She walked into the courthouse with her designer bag, but no allies. Her attorney tried painting her as a misunderstood leader, someone overburdened by civic responsibility who made a few bad decisions in pursuit of community harmony. But the evidence said otherwise. Cynthia presented a timeline so precise it could have been plotted by a crime novelist. We had signed statements, forged documents, stolen assets, financial records, and that damning video from Brittany. The judge didn't need much deliberation. Karen was convicted on multiple counts: fraud, misappropriation of funds, and grand theft auto. She was sentenced to 5 years, with eligibility for parole in 2. She cried in court, but not out of remorse. Out of disbelief. The queen had fallen. And she still didn't understand why the peasants revolted. Afterward, Cynthia and I stood outside the courthouse. Reporters buzzed around like gnats, but I ignored them. "You feel like it's over?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. "I think I feel responsible." "For what?" "For not standing up sooner. For letting her get that far." She nodded slowly. "That's what tyrants count on. Silence." She gave me a small smile. "But you didn't stay silent." I didn't. 2 months after the trial, the HOA held a community meeting in the park. No suits, no gavel. Just lawn chairs and lemonade. Sam handed me the mic halfway through. "I didn't plan to speak," I said, "but I guess I should say something. Not about Karen. She's behind us. But about what comes next." Heads turned. Some nodded. Even the skeptics leaned in. "We can't afford to tune out again. HOA rules matter. Yeah, but so do the people behind them. If you see something shady, say it. If a neighbor's struggling, help. We don't need a watchdog, we need each other." There was a pause. Then applause. I looked over at the Corvette parked nearby. It shimmered in the sunset like a sentinel. Still mine. Always mine. Later that week, I received a letter. Not from the HOA, but from a national homeowner rights coalition. "Your blog and documentation inspired several communities to reevaluate their HOA structures. We'd like to invite you to speak at our annual convention." Me. A speaker. The guy who almost lost everything. I accepted. Not out of pride, but because I realized something. What happened to me wasn't just about a car or a bad neighbor. It was about voice. And justice. And if I could help others find theirs, then all of it was worth it. Now, when I drive through Willow Creek, people wave. They honk. One kid even asked if the Corvette had superpowers. "Only one," I told him. It brought the truth to light. Oak Ridge Estates was the kind of suburban enclave built to resemble a utopia. Streets curved like careful brushstrokes across the landscape, lined with manicured hedges and trees planted at mathematically perfect intervals. Every home bore the same veneer of luxury: cream-colored stucco, black shutters, polished mailboxes. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh-cut grass and quiet competition. To outsiders, Oak Ridge was paradise. To those within, it was a fortress, and at its gates stood Karen Whitmore. Karen, in her early 50s, was the self-appointed guardian of neighborhood virtue and president of the Homeowners Association for nearly a decade. Her platinum bob never moved out of place, her pastel wardrobe looked curated by a golf club catalog, and her clipboard was rarely more than a foot from her person. HOA meetings ran like tribunals, and Karen was judge, jury, and executioner. She enforced the bylaws with evangelical fervor. When Marcus and Alina arrived in late summer, they didn't fully grasp what Oak Ridge demanded. They were hopeful. The city had worn them down, sirens at night, apartment walls that seemed to breathe your neighbor's arguments. This, they believed, was a clean start. Marcus, a 32-year-old legal analyst, worked remotely. Detail-oriented and composed, he thrived on logic. Alina, an illustrator with a wild imagination and a quiet resilience, filled their home with color, contrast, and warmth. They had no children yet, but the spare room held a crib, hope folded away for the future. Their first week was uneventful. Curious glances from neighbors, a few stiff smiles. But on the morning of their 7th day, an envelope appeared beneath their front door. The HOA welcome packet. Alina held it up. "It's heavier than I expected." Inside was a 20-page booklet with laminated pages. A note written in aggressively neat cursive read, "Please review thoroughly. You are already in violation of 3 policies." Marcus frowned. "We've barely unpacked." Page 4 listed their infractions. Unapproved wind chime on the back porch, a solar light stake that violated nighttime illumination guidelines, and a bird feeder too close to the fence line. "They must have measured it," Alina murmured. At the bottom was a signature, Karen Whitmore, HOA president. The first encounter came days later. Karen appeared at their front door unannounced, clipboard in hand, wearing a powder blue sweater set and a smile sharpened at the edges. "Good morning. Just doing my rounds," she said. Marcus offered a polite nod. "We read the packet. We're adjusting." Karen tilted her head. "I certainly hope so. Compliance ensures harmony. And harmony is the soul of Oak Ridge." Alina tried to smile. "We're happy to be here." Karen's eyes scanned the porch, the shrubs, the slope of the driveway. "I'll be watching," she said, and left without another word. They laughed it off at first. A neighborhood busybody was nothing new. But the fines began arriving like clockwork. $50 for leaving their trash bin out past 8 a.m. on collection day. $75 for having curtains in a shade not pre-approved by the HOA. "Taupe is not non-neutral," Marcus said, holding the citation. "It's taupe." Worse were the comments. Karen seemed to materialize wherever they went. "Alina, those paint colors you use outside? They may attract birds. Birds mean droppings. You understand." "Marcus, your car. Did you know its registration sticker is crooked?" Marcus started keeping notes. He documented every citation, every odd encounter. His legal instincts told him something was off. This wasn't about the rules. It was about control. Meanwhile, Alina retreated into her art. Her bright acrylics became darker, more abstract. When Marcus asked why, she said, "I feel like we're living in a diorama where someone else keeps moving the pieces." Despite the tension, they pressed on. Marcus set up his home office. Alina planted morning glories. They invited 2 neighbors for wine one Friday, only for both to cancel last minute. One left a note. "Karen checks guests' cars now. I'm sorry." It was during a rare moment of calm that the turning point arrived. A manila envelope, delivered by Amazon's Secure Legal Division, was due to arrive at noon. It contained court documents, evidence Marcus needed for a federal corruption case he was assisting on. Time-sensitive. Confidential. He received the delivery confirmation at 12:17 p.m. But when he checked the porch, the package was gone. He checked the Ring doorbell footage. There, in crisp HD, stood Karen. At 12:20 p.m., she bent down, inspected the label, and walked off with the envelope tucked under her arm. Marcus stared at the screen, heart pounding. Alina appeared behind him. "Is that?" He nodded. She took it. He marched to the HOA office, an over-air-conditioned room in the community center adorned with photographs of past HOA presidents. Karen was behind the desk, sipping coffee from a ceramic mug that read HOA Queen. "You took my package," Marcus said. Karen didn't flinch. It was left in plain view. That constitutes community clutter. As HOA president, I'm permitted to secure it. That wasn't clutter. It was a legal courier package. You had no authority. Karen turned her monitor toward him. Bylaw 7.3. Items left unattended in visible areas are subject to removal by the HOA to preserve visual standards. It's about neighborhood aesthetics, Mr. Leon. Perhaps next time, consider a parcel locker. I want it back. Now. She disappeared into the back room and returned with the envelope, now slightly crumpled. Here you go. Untouched. You're welcome. He took it and left without another word. But the damage had been done. The chain of custody was broken. The documents, now considered compromised, were flagged. Marcus was forced to testify early to clarify the breach. The opposing counsel used the incident to suggest carelessness. Though the case continued, Marcus knew this had cost him credibility. That night, as he sat on the back porch with Alina, wind chime removed, solar lights unplugged, and bird feeder packed away, he said, "She doesn't care about the rules. She cares about power." Alina leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then let's take it from her." The moon rose silently over Oak Ridge, casting long shadows across its carefully constructed illusion. Inside one of those shadows, resistance stirred. The fallout from the package incident was both immediate and lingering. Though Karen had returned the envelope intact, the subtle crease at the corner might as well have been a crack in Marcus's professional armor. When he informed the federal attorneys of the delay and its cause, their disappointment was measured but palpable. It wasn't just about the contents. It was about the optics. Marcus spent the next week on edge. Every knock at the door made him stiffen. Every notification from his email or phone was a potential escalation. He kept the crumpled envelope on his desk, a symbol of what had been taken. Not just documents, but dignity. Alina, ever Marcus's compass, tried to focus on her work. But the creeping unease made it difficult to concentrate. Her art studio in the garage felt less like a sanctuary and more like a vulnerable outpost. She began double-checking the locks, then triple. Karen, however, seemed invigorated. Emboldened, she walked her usual route through the neighborhood with renewed swagger. Her clipboard now included photos, evidence of supposed violations. Shrubs grown 2 inches too tall. Halloween decorations placed 2 days early. Lawn chairs angled improperly. The power she wielded wasn't just in citations. It was in fear. One evening, as Alina returned from the grocery store, she noticed Karen speaking with their neighbor, Mr. Park. He was nodding along as she spoke, but his eyes betrayed discomfort. When he saw Alina, he offered a faint wave and then quickly excused himself. Alina watched as Karen turned to stare at her driveway. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes lingered too long. That night, Alina voiced what they both feared. "She's watching more than just the lawns now." Marcus nodded. "She wants to make an example of us." He decided to act. But first he needed leverage. Using his legal credentials, Marcus filed a public records request on the HOA's financials. It was a long shot. Most HOAs kept such matters internal, but Oak Ridge's charter mandated transparency upon formal request. Within days, he received digital access to years of budgets, expense reports, and vendor contracts. And there, buried in the spreadsheets, Marcus saw the first red flag, a recurring landscaping charge to a company named Verde Vista, LLC. The payments were substantial. Monthly amounts that exceeded what a neighborhood of this size should require. Curious, he dug deeper. Verde Vista was registered to a Nevada address, a P.O. box. No website, no physical office. The registered agent? Daniel Whitmore, Karen's nephew. He stared at the screen, his fingers curling into fists. "What is it?" Alina asked. "She's been funneling HOA money. Shell company. Family name. It's embezzlement." That was just the beginning. Other payments surfaced. Equipment rentals that didn't match maintenance logs. Consulting fees to firms that didn't exist. All of it pointed back to Karen. Marcus compiled the data, organizing it into a report that was equal parts precise and damning. He encrypted the file, backed it up twice, and emailed it to a trusted friend in the Department of Justice. Alina took a photo of Karen the next day, leaning over a neighbor's fence, issuing orders like a field marshal. They used it on a flyer. "Is your HOA dues funding Karen's family business?" They printed 50. Dropped them into mailboxes at midnight. Within 48 hours, whispers filled the air. Anonymously, neighbors began leaving notes under their door. "Thank you. She fined me $200 for a hummingbird feeder. How can we help?" Oak Ridge United was born. But Karen didn't back down. She retaliated with surgical cruelty. Marcus and Alina received 4 citations in 1 week, 2 for nonconforming foliage and 2 for excessive shade cast on sidewalk. A lien warning followed. Karen hosted an emergency HOA meeting. No public notice. No minutes shared. "I've received reports of slander," she announced to the select few invited. "There are rogue elements attempting to undermine community trust. We will respond decisively." Marcus, excluded from the meeting, watched the live stream on a burner account. He recorded every second. As the days grew shorter and the leaves began to fall, so too did Karen's facade. Alina stood at the window one morning, sipping coffee, watching Karen walk her route. "She doesn't know yet," she said. Marcus turned from his computer. "Know what?" "That the ground is cracking beneath her. And she's standing still." The first public crack in Karen Whitmore's regime came on a fog-choked Tuesday morning. It started quietly. A note posted on the community bulletin board outside the Oak Ridge clubhouse read simply, "Emergency HOA election meeting, Friday, 7 p.m., Clubhouse Hall. Attendance strongly encouraged." No signature. No HOA letterhead. Yet within an hour, it had been photographed, printed, and passed among mailboxes like contraband. Karen arrived by noon and tore the note down, her jaw set tight as piano wire. But it was too late. The message had spread. That evening, Marcus and Alina met with a dozen neighbors under the cover of twilight. They gathered in the back garden of the Rosarios, older residents who'd been fined hundreds for the color of their shed. "I can't even hang a wind spinner without a citation," Mrs. Rosario muttered. "I'm 83 years old. We need to make the vote legal," Marcus said. Under Article 5 of the HOA Charter, a board recall is permitted if 25% of dues-paying members request a vote in writing. "Karen won't accept the petitions," said a man in a reflective vest. "She controls the mailbox." "That's why we're not submitting them to her," Alina said. "We're documenting everything and sending it to the city clerk." They collected the required signatures in just 3 days, 49 households. Alina personally scanned and compiled each one. Marcus drafted a formal complaint, citing misuse of funds, procedural violations, and intimidation tactics. Karen caught wind of the plan and lashed out in the only way she knew: control. She issued new emergency aesthetic mandates, banning decorative lights, sidewalk chalk, and any lawn items not strictly utilitarian. Fines tripled. Marcus and Alina received 3 in one morning. The Leon home was now under surveillance. Karen's cousin, Frank, an off-duty security guard, parked his SUV near their driveway for hours. Cameras pointed at their front windows. Packages stopped arriving. Mail was delayed. Still, the neighbors stood firm. The day before the meeting, Marcus received a letter on official HOA stationery. A cease and desist. Cease all unapproved community mobilization, or face civil liability. Alina stared at the letter. "She's bluffing." "She's desperate," Marcus said. "This is a woman losing her grip." Friday night arrived like the last breath before a storm. The clubhouse, once reserved for sanctioned events and Karen-approved gatherings, was packed. Folding chairs filled every corner. People stood against the walls, some spilling into the hallway. Cameras rolled. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years now stood shoulder to shoulder. Karen entered 10 minutes late, flanked by 2 board members and her nephew Daniel. Her presence sucked the warmth from the room. I understand there's confusion, she began, voice slicing through the crowd. But this meeting is unauthorized. The HOA has not called any vote. We have, Marcus said, standing up. He held a folder aloft. 49 signatures. A legal petition for a recall election. Karen's lip curled. This is not how our community operates. It's exactly how it's supposed to, said Mrs. Rosario from the front row. We're the community, not you. Whispers swelled into murmurs. Karen raised her hand. I have protected Oak Ridge from chaos for a decade. I've enforced standards, maintained property values, and kept out disruptive influences. By threatening retirees and stealing packages? Marcus said. Gasps. Phones lifted. Karen turned pale, then flushed red. I returned the package, she snapped. You opened it. It contained federal documents. You violated federal law. Daniel stepped forward, but Alina held up her phone. Touch him, and this goes to the press. Karen's breath caught. The vote commenced. Each resident, marked by address and verified against dues records, wrote their choice on a slip of paper. Recall or retain. It took nearly an hour. When the final count was announced, 73% in favor of recall, Karen didn't speak. She turned, clipboard limp at her side, and left the clubhouse without a word. The room erupted in applause. People cried. Neighbors hugged. Children giggled for the first time on clubhouse grounds in months. But Marcus wasn't smiling. He knew Karen. He knew she wouldn't go quietly. 2 days later, it happened. A package was left on their doorstep. No markings. No return address. Inside, photographs. Surveillance shots of Marcus and Alina. At the grocery store. On walks. In their backyard. And a typed note. You're being watched. You don't know who I still control. They took it to the police. A restraining order was filed. But no charges. Karen hadn't physically trespassed. Her lawyer claimed the images were publicly taken. That same night, Alina caught a man crouching near their mailbox. He fled before police arrived. Marcus's contact at the DOJ, an old classmate, called him privately. She's panicking, the agent said. We just got a call from a burner number threatening to expose federal misconduct if we investigate her finances. It's laughable, but reckless. You have enough to indict? Not yet. But soon. Marcus and Alina doubled their precautions. Motion lights. Additional locks. They took shifts sleeping. Karen might be dethroned, but her influence was insidious. A week passed. Then another. The calm felt artificial, like the eye of a hurricane. Then came the call. Alina answered. Her hand trembled as she held the phone. It's the sheriff, she said. They just arrested Karen. Marcus stared. For what? Tampering with federal documents. Surveillance harassment. Embezzlement. They have video of her forging invoices, her own board flipped on her. By noon, the story was everywhere. HOA president arrested in federal sting. Whitmore faces 9 felony counts. Package queen exposed by residents. Karen was booked, denied bail, and held pending trial. Daniel was subpoenaed. The Verde Vista accounts were frozen. Oak Ridge was now under interim leadership, and the first order of business was eliminating legacy rules and erasing all outstanding fines. Neighbors gathered for an impromptu celebration on the Leon lawn. Someone brought cupcakes. A child tied streamers to the mailbox. Mr. Park raised a plastic cup. To the Leons, who reminded us that fear only rules when we let it. Marcus smiled, his arm around Alina. You were right, she said. About what? She cared more about power than rules. And in the end, that's what undid her. The wind shifted, blowing away the last of the mailed notices tacked to their front door. Freedom had a scent.